An East Midlands surgeon is leading a Europe-wide campaign for a change in our approach to funding and research into the treatment of childhood cancers. Dr. David Walker from Nottingham's Queen's Medical Centre is supported by parents of his patients who've lobbied Brussels for a change to rules around developing new treatments. Here's our political reporter, Tim Parker.
There's no doubting the levels of care they receive here, but could we be doing more for children suffering from cancer? Professor David Walker is leading a European-wide campaign to get politicians to relax rules designed to protect patients from untried drugs, so that those already in common use can be trialled in different ways, making it cheaper and quicker to devise new treatments.
Not all trials are such high risk. Many trials are testing well-known drugs in new combinations to try and improve the quality of outcomes in a way. And in fact, in childhood cancer, that is the commonest type of trial that we deal with.
It's a problem that's all too real for the White family from Newark. 16-year-old Sam has a brain tumour and he's been to Belgium for treatment, which isn't yet licensed for the UK.
Hello, how are you today?
His family are now raising the funds for a new course of treatment.
Because children's cancers are classed as rare, which is fine if it's not your child, when it certainly isn't rare, there isn't a lot of research from the pharmaceutical companies because it's not profitable, basically. There aren't enough children to make a drug, which means that fewer and fewer children are able to access new treatments. And new treatments are what are needed, because if the old ones were okay, we wouldn't be where we are now.
Sam's also been to Brussels to lobby for a change in the law.
Okay.
It's probably been 2 or 3 years now that I've been trying to get, not just for cancer patients like myself, but just for cancer patients that haven't been so lucky. They also need people to stick up for them, to support them as well.
The family's case has been taken up by the East Midlands Labour MEP Glenys Wilmot. She's taking the lead in Europe on looking at making the new legislation work more effectively. For the families, it can't come quickly enough.
These children and adults, these children, some of them need these drugs now, not when you've all sat down over 6 months to a year, had your annual holiday. Because some children, I'm afraid, won't be around when you say yes.
Campaigners here at the Nottingham Children's Hospital in the Queen's Medical Centre just want to make sure that any new European regulations on children's cancer drugs are safe and fair. It's a drive for change across the whole of Europe, but the lead's coming from here in the East Midlands.
Sam said last year that, didn't you, that I don't think we'll quite change the world.
Yes.
But we'll have a jolly good try.
And you wouldn't bet against them, would you? Now, Anna, this is a campaign that's aimed mainly, obviously, for Europe, but can the government here be doing more to lobby on this?
No, it's a cross-party campaign.
Yes.
Both Glenys and Emma are doing a great job. Emma
But can you be doing more here to help?
Well, what, to help their campaign?
Yes.
No, I mean, this is a decision by the European Parliament on a particular directive. And it would seem that there are inadequacies within the directive, because as we've seen, you can have a clinical trial in Belgium and the results aren't going to be relevant in other countries.
But can't you put pressure on that?
No, they're doing the job which they have to do in Parliament, because it's the European Parliament that makes the decision.
Yes.
And for what it's worth, that's certainly all part of their elbow. Emma and Glenys are doing a good job there. I mean, in terms of cancer research, I mean, I think there's a huge amount. I mean, at the moment we're providing £110 million in cancer research, and of course that is as well as the amount of money that our many charities also raise for cancer research. I think one of the problems with cancer and cancer research is that you get some cancers which become, if you like, more attractive to the public to put in money. And so you will find, for example, we've made huge advances in breast cancer and indeed prostate cancer. And that's because they've resonated with the public. But we need to do the same for things like bowel cancer, which hasn't been as attractive.
And the rarer cancers as well.
Brain
because I think
cancer is a real problem.
This is the problem you've been talking about, where there's not enough specific cases to do all of the trials in one country.
Yeah.
It's one of the good reasons why, being in the European Union, you can pool
Absolutely.
But it says something,
those
doesn't it,
assets
when
and
Pam White
make sure
there,
you do
the
that
mother
job.
says that it's actually harder raising money for her son's treatment in Belgium than it is to fight the cancer. I mean, that's not right.
Well,
And I think it's really important.
Brain tumours are... Sorry.
No, absolutely. I know it's your department.
One of the and also because I have a brilliant charity in my constituency called Headcase, which I give a plug at every opportunity. And as you all know, but one of the things about brain tumours and brain cancers is that there are so many of them.
Yeah.
That it's actually an incredibly difficult subject. So you almost need a campaign on every single one. But there are people doing the most amazing research, not just in Nottingham, but for example at Portsmouth University, which is leading it. So Headcase in my constituency is funding 2 researchers there.
But it sounds like you've got a lot to agree on here. And we heard in Tim's piece that Glenys Wilmot is taking a leading role in looking at this legislation in Europe. So we asked her what are the chances of this campaign getting the rules changed.
The legislation needs revision, and I've been working with the campaigners such as Professor David Walker from Nottingham. I've been working with him for several years now to make sure these changes get through. I've got unanimous support in the committee, and I'm now negotiating with member states. We want to make them easier to run and cheaper to run while keeping patient safety at heart. And there will be transparency so that results of all trials, whether they are good or bad, we'll have access to all of that information. That leads to confidence in the results and it leads to good science. So I'm delighted that we've had such a success.
OK, well, some real hope there for our East Midlands campaigners. Let's take a wider look at health now, Anna, and public health's going to be playing a much bigger role, as we've been hearing. We've reported, though, here on how places like Nottingham and Leicester have a bad record for life expectancy. I think we're in the bottom 10 on that. Is that really going to make any difference with public health playing a bigger
very
role?
much, absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons why, which was really about the only part of the Act which wasn't controversial, was the fact that we put public health back where it should be, which is with local authorities, because we take the view that local authorities know their communities better than anybody. And so I know, for example, that in Leicester, they've made obesity one of their absolute top targets, and they're doing some great work there. They're also doing some fantastic work on diabetes as well in Leicester, which is all part of their public health agenda. And unfortunately, some of the worst outcomes in health are linked to deprivation.
Of course,
and so now with the statutory duty, which is one of the other great bonuses of the Health and Social Care Act, was that we put an absolute statutory duty now on the NHS to make sure that it reduces health inequality. It's something that unfortunately
the one thing that does worry me slightly, and although I think we agree we want in principle local decisions on these things, what I don't want is to see the national government sort of pushing this down to local councils and then of course pulling the rug from underneath them with the lack of funding.
Well, no,
so of course,
just
let me finish, because of course the problem is if they haven't got the money for the better housing that they need, they haven't got the money for some of those projects to help young people, learn about healthy eating and all those other areas. If that money is squeezed, and the funding formula we know wasn't really very helpful for some of the inner city areas like Nottingham, then it's very worrying that we're sort of not going to be making the progress in those social areas.
Is he right to be worried?
It is a social and economic area.
What we did is we've given overall about a 10% increase in the amount of money that councils are getting for public health. And it's a 2-year deal, which is pretty unheard of. So that they have now got some security, and it's ring-fenced money, so they can't mess about with it. But one of the great things about it is that it enables councils to look at things like their transport plans. And so when they're doing things like that, they can make sure that they
the spending review, of course, was from 2015, so after this 2-year deal. And of course, Anna's just, through Eric Pickles, chopped 10% off the local authority budget.
I have to say, the one thing that we don't normally disagree with
is that the council funding is being absolutely emasculated. So we want to watch, exactly, but you said for 2 years, which of course expires in 2015.
OK, well, we'll have to leave that one there.